entrepreneur, educator, Cherie Simmons. Again, this is Underneath the Hat podcast. We are in season 4 with the theme of Speak Over Yourself. So if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe and like on YouTube with the Underneath the Hat podcast. Also, check us out on all podcast platforms: Anchor, Overcast, Spotify, Apple, Google, Breaker, and Pocket Cast. Thank you for joining me on this podcast. Again, we are in season 4. I can't believe it's been 4 years. And for those that have just joined, welcome. For those that have been riding with me from the very beginning, thank you so much. And it's very bittersweet because in just a few short weeks, I will be ending the Underneath the Hat podcast in order to clear my plate and move on to some new endeavors. And so what I've decided to do is these last couple of episodes is dive more into who I am, sharing who I am with you all so you can get to know a little bit about Cherie. And so I've been choosing song titles because I love music, and I've chosen song titles that represent who I am, and then I speak based on that title. So this week's title is from one of my favorite gospel songs by the Thompson Community Singers called Safe in His Arms. And I've actually sang this song at funerals, and it's my go-to whenever I'm feeling down and out, which as those of you who have been watching me over these past 4 years know, I'm very transparent, sometimes too transparent for people. But I believe that one person's testimony is another person's breakthrough. And so I have been a little depressed these last couple of days. My babe, as I call him, babe and I, we went out of town this past weekend to celebrate Valentine's Day. And on our way back from Memphis, I always like to ask him these questions. He hates them. But it's just my way of getting to know him. And so I asked if he had 3 wishes or magic wand, what would he do? And when it was time for me to answer, one thing that I said was that I would want to be doing something different as far as my career, because I just don't feel like me anymore. Like, I don't feel that I don't feel like I know what my purpose is right now in this part of my life. And so I started to cry. I don't even think he knew I was crying, but because he was driving. But I started to cry, and I've been dealing with it since this weekend of feeling like this past weekend of feeling like I don't know what my purpose is, what I want to do next. And I am a planner. And so that is very hard for someone like me to not know what I'm doing next, especially when I have plan A, B, C, all the way to Z mapped out of what I want to do. And so I was talking to one of my best friends this morning. And the one thing I like about my friendships is that we don't have to talk every day because we all have lives. But when we get the opportunity to talk to each other, it always comes at the right time. And it's as if no time has passed at all. And talking to my friend, I was able to release and be open and share some tears with her. And one thing she told me was, I have to give myself some grace. She said, "You have accomplished a lot." And she was telling me about this something that she had seen either on Instagram or Facebook, and where it talked about the resting period and how we're so used to moving so much that we don't take a time to rest and stop and be still. And that's another reason why this podcast ending is bittersweet, because it's forcing me to be still, to not always be moving. I'm sitting here now looking at the vision board that I do every year, and I break it up into 4 quarters. And I put sticky notes of what I want to accomplish in those 4 quarters. And for the last 2-3 years, I have pretty much accomplished 90% of what I put on there. But when I was looking at it today before I started the podcast, I realized that of the 8 things that are actually on my quarter 1, I've only done one. I've only done one. And it'll be 2 when this podcast ends, which is unheard of for me. And so listening to my friend tell me to give myself grace and that this could possibly be my resting period and that I am where I'm supposed to be at the moment that I'm supposed to be there, it just reminds me of my favorite song, Safe in His Arms. And it says, because the Lord is my shepherd, I have everything I need. He makes me to rest in meadow's grass, and he leads me beside the quiet streams. He restores my failing health, and he helps me to do what honors him the most. That's why I'm safe in his arms. Then my favorite part is when the storms of life are raging and the billows roll. I'm glad that he shall hide me safe in his arms. And I have to take heed to what my friend said and give myself grace. In almost 41 years, I have done some things that people could only imagine. That I double my age. I have written 2 books. I have done a radio show, which then branched into this podcast. I've done panel discussions. I was looking through something a couple of days ago and saw, it was on Facebook where they do the memories, depending upon what you posted on that date within however many years. And I forgot that I had done a one-woman show of my book, Underneath the Hat, where I was on a stage in front of a crowd reading excerpts from my book in a one-woman format. I've started Young Ladies at All Times, my mentoring program. And we just celebrated 6 years in February. And now it's 4 years with this podcast. Being able to say that I've been on the same job with my school district for, it'll be 18 years in August. To be doing the same thing for 18 years, I've just been able to do a lot in a small amount of time. And I know it was all because of God's grace and him keeping me safe in his arms. And she mentioned something else. She said, you are in your resting period, and it's an opportunity for me to be able to enjoy the fruits of my labor, for me to enjoy things that I've never been given the opportunity to have. And one of those things is the relationship that I'm in now. She said, because she called me last night and I didn't answer at first. And then I texted her back. I said, I saw you call. And she's like, you busy? And so I hurried up and called her. And we started talking, but not as freely as we normally do, because I was cuddled up with Babe. And she was like, what are you doing? And so I told her. And she was like, oh, must be nice to be cuddled up on a Wednesday night. So she made mention to the fact that I'm in a relationship that's going well, that's everything that I've ever wanted, that I was looking for in all the other places and never was able to find. And she said, this is now your resting place for you to be able to harvest that relationship. And I never thought about that. In all the other relationships, I was always moving. Always moving. And this is he still says I move a lot, but I'm not moving as much as I used to. And now with me stopping this podcast and cutting down on a lot of the other things that I do, I can focus on this moment in my life, this relationship in my life, and be able to give more to it than I've been able to. And having him in my life and having my friend in my life and having my other friend who has been pouring into me, she has no idea the fact that she knows my love language is words of affirmation, and she sends me weekly affirmations that come right on time and say the right thing. She didn't even know that I was having these feelings. It's just amazing that God will send you the right people at the right time. And I know that's because I am safe in his arms. And I thank him daily. I don't do this often as I should. I don't say thank you as much as I should for all the things that he has done for me. But I am truly grateful for the grace and the mercy that he has bestowed upon me, and the blessings and the lessons that I have been able to endure, and the people around me that he has placed in my life. I take none of it for granted, and I'm so happy that I have these people that I can call my village to be there for me in ways that they don't even know. So as I close this podcast on March 18th, I just want to leave you all with this. I don't know what your relationship is with God or whomever you serve, but I just need you to know that if you're struggling to understand what your purpose is and wondering what you should do next, and you're feeling uneasy in this resting period, I just need you to realize that you're not alone, and to trust in your Heavenly Father or whomever it is that you serve. Trust them to be able to take care of you and keep you safe, because God has truly been keeping me safe in his arms in ways that I had no idea. And I am excited for what's next. I'm excited to blossom this relationship and continue to know more about me and see where he's taking me next. And I just want to thank you all for being there too, because you have been my sounding board and you have been a platform where I have been able to speak out and share my voice and not care what people had to say, which has been hard for me over the years. This podcast has been a blessing for me too, because it's given me the opportunity to share a voice that had been silenced for a very long time, a voice that I did not even realize I had. And I can't wait to see what's next. But for now, I'm just going to let him rock me and hold me and keep me safe until the next journey. So, again, I want to thank you all so much for your support of this Underneath the Hat podcast, season 4. Make sure you subscribe and like on YouTube, because you can always go back and watch those episodes that you missed. And you can also check us out on all podcast platforms: Anchor, Overcast, Spotify, Apple, Google, Breaker, and Pocket Cast. Also, don't forget to share this with someone. Leave a comment or a question. I'll make sure that I respond. If you want to sew into the podcast, you can through Cash App or through Zelle. And I just want to thank you all so much for your support. You have no idea how much I appreciate all that you've done for me. And as I always say, remember to take care of yourself underneath the hat. I will see you